if I asked you to think of a country that has rejected a record 74% of Indian student visa applications, which country would you think of? Now, this is more than double the rate from 2023. Which is the country that you're thinking of? Well, if you're thinking of the US or the United Kingdom, or for that matter, even Australia, that's not the correct answer. Surprisingly, the country is Canada, and the Canadian government is reportedly mulling granting its immigration department new powers to cancel temporary visas on a large scale, which would target applicants from India as well as Bangladesh. In fact, the number of Indian applicants dropped from 21,000 back in August 2023 to just 4,500 in 2025. A new leader at the helm is something that you have. A housing crisis is what you're looking at when it comes to Canada, and that the said leadership, of course, has to be dealing with this crisis. Bunch of triggers that you have as far as Canada is concerned, and we'll be talking about just these. Suspected fraud could be the key reason why we've seen this as well. Let's take the conversation forward, in fact, with our guests for this afternoon. In fact, we're being joined by Advocate Gaurang Parekh, who's an immigration lawyer, Aditya Bhati, founder, director, ABS International Outreach Solutions, as well as Kathleen DeRoser, who's an immigration expert as well. A very good afternoon to all of you.
Good afternoon.
Well, you know what? The first thing that I wanted to understand, I will take this across to you, Mr. Parekh, because I wanted to understand what you think could be the key trigger when it comes to this, and what do you think are the options that Indian students and as well as job seekers are left with? Because, when you're talking about all of these numbers, and when you're talking about such a big decline in terms of applications for visas, you're not just talking about ghosts, right? You're talking about aspirations. You're talking about exactly that number of dreams and aspirations as well. So what are you making of this particular move at this point in time?
Thank you, Shweta. See, this is in the backdrop of the various fraudulent documents, various frauds, which is not only in Canada, but in India. There are multiple immigration agents, multiple immigration lawyers who follow various fraudulent activities. They hire people on a work visa. They call students. They transfer or convert the visas of temporary visitors to asylum and refugee status by producing various fraud documents, by producing various fraud reports, filing various asylum and refugee applications. By that, they produce and they write various articles in the newspaper that a particular community or particular person is being persecuted in India or in Bangladesh or in China or in Pakistan, XYZ. And by that, they ask for a refugee status or for asylum status. Now, the Canadian government were accepting those kind of applicants, but they recently found out that these are being fraudulent documents and fraudulent applications. They have become very strict nowadays. But if you ask me that why they become very strict because of the this thing, they are now cancelling. They are now not accepting. They are stopped issuing various type of visas to Indians and Bangladeshis. Now they have Indians have another options in Europe, such as Germany, Luxembourg, Ireland. All these are options available with them. Who wants to go for a higher studies or for a job work visa, they can go to Germany, they can go to Netherlands, they can go to Luxembourg. If they want to go for higher studies, they can go to Australia, New Zealand, UK, or France. But at present, since 2023, there were some are right around about 8 lakh applicants were there. Now it has dropped to 3.5 lakhs since January 2025. So 45% reduction in visa issuance and visa applications.
All right, then, that's a very important point that you've brought up, Mr. Parekh, and I, of course, want to be discussing this with Mr. Bhati as well. But before I do that, Kathleen, I wanted to understand what you think about this as well, because, there's a little bit of an understanding where, Canada is considered a little bit a gateway to entering America as well. Do you also, firstly, do you concur with Mr. Parekh's point in terms of how there's going to be an influx into other countries, other locations that will now become more attractive? And secondly, do you also concur with the point when it comes to Canada being considered a gateway into entering America? Do you believe that that might have been a little bit of a concern that the Canadian government was dealing with as well?
Yes, I am completely like agreeing with which advocate said, because the same kind of application. I don't want to repeat the same thing again, but at the same time, as you mentioned, that it is also a gateway to US. It does not mean the permanent residency is completely over. It's just that you have to upgrade your skill set. For example, um, you have to have French proficiency in order to get your permanent residency in a short period of time. So that is also open. It's just that it's just not shut. It's just not everything is going to be cancelled, but they are upgrading the system. So, for example, if I talk about the Express Entry program, when it was launched in 2015, it was very simple process. Anyone who is less than 30, has masters and have a golden score in the English test, which is 8 in the listening and the rest 777, can get their permanent residency in a jiff while you sit in India. It's just the matter of the application. How do you file it? Step 1, step 2, step 3, and you get your PR ready. But at the same time, wherein there were many skilled people, those who were suffering, wherein a doctor who has an ample number of work experience, but he's losing a lot of points in his age. That is the reason, it was not justified for a working professional or skilled migrant, a skilled aspirant who was wanted to, migrate and get the permanent residency. So that is the reason the Bill 19C was launched. And now Bill C12 is for people, those they were taking it for a toss. Okay, there were people, those who were doing tourist visa, and later on they were converting into asylum and getting the refugee certificate and stuff like that. That is the reason Bill C is being launched. It's not that it's completely a no-no for permanent residency applicants. Of course, if you do fall under the certain skill sets and if you're matching the standards, the permanent residency is open for you. And of course, once you get a PR, you do have gateway to US as well.
So, you're looking at it not in terms of a no-no, you're looking at it in terms of an upgrade, if you will, right? So I wanted to also take this across to Mr. Bhatti as well. What I want to understand is why this sort of a move is happening at this point in time. Do you think Canada is getting swept away? Because when you're looking at some of the recent policies, you do have Canada also following the footsteps of the United States of America as well. Is that something that, Mr. Bhatti, you're thinking of how this move has come in terms of the timeline? You did have the H-1B visa regulations being upgraded, and you do have this move also following the footsteps of that a little bit. Is that the understanding that you're getting from this as well?
Not really.
Okay.
So, in fact, I believe that Canada started its revamping much before the US started. And it's been about, say, 2 years in the making that they have been kind of looking at their operations and see what they need to change and what they need to upgrade. And like Gaurang and Kathleen said, that the basic reason is, see, they're trying to root out fraud. They're not saying we are rooting out bona fide applicants. What they're saying is people who entered the country using fraudulent means or after reaching the country have tried to misuse or abuse the system to, say, seek an asylum or a refugee status. Those are the kind of entrants they are not wanting in the country. So they're trying to discourage that. And by bringing in changes in their policy, what they're saying is, if you're a bona fide applicant, you're welcome. But if you're trying to misuse our system, if you're trying to abuse our system, then we don't want you.
All right, then. So that's the take coming in from Mr. Bhatti as well. Mr. Parekh, I wanted to come back to you, try and understand what you think this is falling in terms of the bigger trend. Do you think this is indicating a shift towards, Indian job seekers and Indian students as well? Do you think this is part of a greater scheme of things at this point in time? Because this is not just the first country that has done this, right? You do have the United States of America as well. There's Canada as well. So what options are then, Indian students and job seekers left with? We've discussed a little bit of that. And that is in extension of the point that you also mentioned. But do you think this is part of a greater trend then?
Now, this Canada and US both have come out with such type of laws. I think in future Europe and Australia may also be starting with such kind of laws to stop the fraudulent applications, because Europe is also witnessing many inflows from various countries, Africa, East Asias, and all these kind of countries, and they also will now start doing such kind of passing such kind of laws. Australia is one of the country where students are now from India. Students are going for further studies. Australia, New Zealand, and UK. All these three countries where students wants to go, because US has shut down their ways to enter into America through student visa. Canada is recently, they are planning to shut down, not shut down basically, but they want to check whether the particular student is properly documented, whether he has all the proper documents, and after that only they are going to issue the visas. Hence, the students, Indian students, are left out with only Australia, New Zealand, and Europe. And particularly now the students are traveling to Germany for, say, suppose a master's in engineering, mechanic engineering, aerospace engineering, all these things, because US is now following strict rules for the immigration, for the student visas.
All right, and that's the word coming in there from Mr. Parekh as well. Just for the benefit of our viewers, I quickly wanted to revisit something that has come out in terms of the data as well, that Canada has in fact rejected 74% of Indian applications. So you're looking at a very big number, Kathleen, when you're looking at this particular data set, right? As you can see on your screens as well, as of August, these are some of the data sets that we're looking at. And just as Mr. Parekh also highlighted, there are a lot of options that are looking more lucrative when it comes to job seekers and students alike. So in terms of how you're looking at it, in terms of a trend, do you think there's a mass deportation as well that is on the cards? How big of a move do you think this is at this point in time? Are you looking at it, in fact, as a watershed moment when it comes to job seekers and students who are looking at Canada and let's say even US as an option?
So we're not looking at deportation, but yes, there is already, they have made it really clear, people, those who are on a temporary visas, they do not have enough documents to prove, and they are not applying for permanent residency. See, when we apply for permanent residency, you do require different documentation. For example, in the very first stage, you require your ECA, which stands for Educational Skill Assessment. If a person is failing to do the educational skill assessment, how can he or she can apply for a permanent residency? Of course, that is the reason the temporary visas has completely been cancelled for them. People, those who are already working on a temporary visa and they know this is going to be coming in the future, they are already in the pool and they have already applied for permanent residency, which they will not be getting effective, right? At the same time, when it comes to the job seekers, Canada does not give you a job seeker visa. You do have to require a permanent, a job offer along with a work permit in order to work there. So you do not have any kind of job seekers from anywhere around the world looking to migrate and getting their, visas in place, or maybe a temporary residency. But anyone who is already in Canada and has met all the parameters of permanent residencies, they are completely welcome, and most of them, they are already in the pool. Because if you really wanted to settle down in a foreign country, and if you really want that, okay, this is my chance and I've already gained Canadian experience, you do have one more pathway in Canadian migration permanent residency pathway, which we call it as Canadian experience class. So people, those who are already having Canadian experience, they can apply. But yes, having said that, you would have to prove your skill, the educational skills, and then also you would have to write an English language test. And now Canadian government also says that you would have to have a medical test beforehand to enter the pool. So when I say enter the pool, that means you're standing in the row waiting for the opportunity to get your invite for PR. So before, August 2025, we never used to ask our clients to get your medicals done beforehand when we do the filing of express entry. But now, after August, each of the applicants, they require to have their medicals test already in hand so that we can file them in the pool. Now coming towards the LMI is the work permits. Now it's completely shut down. Now Canadian government is not giving work permits so easily, because we have seen it in the past. There was a trend that people used to get their work permits done from a grocery shop or a 7-Eleven, wherein all these naive people, they never knew that you do not require that much amount, that hefty amount to get a work permit. All that you require is a proper documentation, and that is the reason it's been cancelled.
And that's something that we're looking at. Thank you so much for helping us out with your understanding of that as well. But Mr. Bhatti, I'll take it back to you. I wanted to also get your closing comments before we wrap up, because against the background of some of the fraudulent letters of acceptance that the data indicates that we have, because there's 1,550 fraudulent letters of acceptance from India in 2023 that you're looking at. As far as some of the data is concerned, by 2024, you do have about 14,000 potential fake letters from all applicants worldwide, if you're looking at some other data as well. Do you think this has been the biggest trigger when it comes to this? On one side, you do have 300 civil society groups that are protesting against this, but do you think this sort of spike that we've seen in terms of the fraudulent applications is the key and the immediate trigger when it comes to this particular hardline sort of stance that we've seen the Canadian government also taking?
To a large extent, yes. So basically what has happened is in the initial stages when these people were coming in, the scrutiny was not so severe, and therefore they were able to get in. But once this fraud was discovered and more in-depth investigations were carried out, the Canadian government found that the fraudulent activities are far more widespread than they initially thought it is. And that's basically what has triggered these investigations and therefore changes in policies. And again, the fact is, again, we can support the students, and the civil societies are right in saying that not everybody is fraudulent, but there is a segment that has indulged in these kind of activities, and Canada, or for that matter, any other country, if tomorrow they do it, are in their place right to ensure that no fraudulent activities take place on their grounds, on their policies. So in that sense, it's a balance wherein we as visa seekers also need to be sure that we are bona fide visa applicants. The documents that we are putting in, the explanations that we are giving are truthful and genuine. And where we make mistakes and where we are using fraudulent documents, then we should be prepared to pay the price for it. That's really what it is. And that's, I think, with your platform, I think that's the one message that I would like to send out to future aspirants, that please don't use these documents. It doesn't just harm you, it actually harms the entire country in terms of reputation, in terms of future people who are wanting to enter the country at later stages. So you may have been able to get in, but people who are going to follow will probably face the music because you did something wrong.